Good afternoon, class. Welcome to today's lesson, and today's lesson is based on the topic Handsaws. So, firstly, I want you guys to give me a hint on what is handsaw and at least two types of handsaw. All right. Today's lesson we'll be looking at 7 types of handsaw. These are the list of the types of handsaw: crosscut saw, rip saw, tenon saw. We have the dovetail saw, we have panel saw, we have narrow blade saw, and also we have the framed saw. Now we'll be going in depth of the types of handsaw. Firstly, we'll be looking at the crosscut saw. The crosscut saw is a specialized handsaw for manually cutting wood across the grain. The rip saw is a specialized handsaw for manually cutting wood in the direction of the grain. A tenon saw is a small tool with a sharp, thin blade and a strong metal back. It is used to make the mortise and tenon joint. There is also the dovetail saw. The dovetail saw is a small box saw used to cut dovetails and other fine joints. Panel saw. Panel saw is used to make straight cuts in large pieces of sheet wood. The saw has fine-toothed crosscut for sawing plywood, thin wood, and large joints. A narrow blade saw is a saw with a narrow blade used for cutting out irregular shapes. A frame saw is a saw with a narrow and flexible blade held under tension within a wooden rectangular frame. Now those are the explanation of the types of saw. Now we'll be looking on a video, alright, with these types of saw, and the video will be explained to you more details of the saw and what these types of saws looks like.
Handsaws are quick and easy to use for all sorts of projects. You just want to make sure you're grabbing the right one for the job. Now, a hacksaw has a bow shape with a thin blade. By adjusting the blade tension, you can make it more rigid, which prevents twisting or bending. And you can switch out the blade for rougher or finer cutting or reverse it, so it's cutting on the pull stroke. This saw is the workhorse for trimming and cutting metal or plastic. A carpenter saw or crosscut saw has teeth shaped to release the wood as it cuts. They commonly cut on the push and pull stroke. These saws are most commonly used to cut lumber where you're cutting across the grain. The more teeth per inch, or TPI, the finer the cut. A coping saw has a deep bowed shape with a very thin replaceable blade and tension adjustment. The thin blade lets you cut irregular shapes or patterns. So this is your tool for cutting a curved profile on crown molding, baseboards, or chair rails. Jab saws have a sharp tip and stiff blade for plunging into a surface. Its shallow blade allows for cutting curves and contours. Use these saws to cut out a hole for a pipe or receptacle. This family of saws are lightweight and distinguished by a rib on the edge, which helps with control and precision. The teeth are closely spaced for fine cuts, so you'll typically use these for precise work like wood joinery or when you're installing flooring and need to trim the bottom of a door casing. Many will cut on the pull stroke, which uses tension on the blade more than force, so you have more control and precision. Here are some more things to remember when choosing a saw. A quality blade takes fewer strokes to make a cut, and the blade won't dull as fast as a lower quality saw. A tooth pattern with a deep gullet releases materials as you cut, reducing friction. For a basic tool kit, a universal handsaw or a 3-in-1 saw are good choices. They cut most wood, laminate, and plastic materials, so there's less guesswork. For the tips and advice and tools you need, visit your neighborhood Ace. And find us online at acehardware.com.
Dear class, we had a video on the types of handsaws used in the workshop. Now, as I said, there are different types of handsaws and for different purposes. We will recap the lesson on what has been said and done, and we will list the types of handsaws and explain them once more. So, first we have the crosscut saw, and the crosscut saw is a specialized handsaw for manually cutting wood across the grain. The rip saw is a specialized handsaw manually for cutting wood in the direction of the grain. So the rip saw is actually the opposite of a crosscut saw. The tenon saw is a small tool with a sharp thin blade and a strong metal back. It is used to construct mortise and tenon joint, and most of you, I'm sure you know what is a mortise and tenon joint. We also have the dovetail saw. The dovetail saw is a small back saw used to cut dovetails and other fine joints. And it's not only dovetail joints is used to construct, but also the other small joints that is required very small saws. There is also the panel saw. The panel saw is used to make straight cuts in large pieces of sheet wood. The saw has fine-toothed crosscut for sawing plywood, thin wood, and large joints. The, there is also the narrow blade saw. The narrow blade saw is a saw with a narrow blade used for cutting out irregular shapes. Now, if there is a irregular shape that is needed to cast a post or anything, the narrow blade saw comes in use. The frame saw. The frame saw is a saw with a narrow and flexible blade held under tension within a wooden rectangular frame. Now, a hacksaw can be considered as a frame saw because it contains a flexible blade and that blade is held under tension within a wooden rectangular frame. And we now has come to an end of today's lesson, and I want you guys to at least do a homework for me. And for the homework, I want you to draw two of these handsaw we have been explained and listed today, and I want you to I will have an exam in a few on the types of handsaw. So for your homework, you will be drawing two types of handsaws, and you will also, list the parts of these handsaw when you draw them. So for your homework, you will draw two types of handsaw and list the parts of the handsaws. For now, I just want you guys to form groups of three, and we will be doing the oral exam on the lesson I've been taught today. So just form yourself in groups and we will do the exam. Okay, so since you guys have formed yourself in groups, we will now do a group exam. Alright, so the groups you're in, you're required to ask your colleagues to give an answer on the question I'm about to ask. So we have 4 groups, and I will ask each group a question, and each of you will answer and get help from your colleagues. So the first question for group 1 is list 2 types of handsaw. For group 2, I want you to explain the 2 types of handsaw the group 1 listed. For group 3, I want you to list another 2 types of handsaw other than that 2. And for group 4, I want you to explain that same 2 types of handsaw group 3 has listed. So for that, I want you to do that for me and submit it to me. Okay, I have received the answer for this exam and it's pretty good. So I think everyone has grasped their knowledge for today's lesson, and thank you for giving our time and attention, and you guys do have a blessed day, and this is the end of today's lesson. Thank you very much, and everyone please be safe.